All right, welcome into yet another video, everybody. Today we're gonna go over a video talking about all the free agents additions, and for every single NFL team we're gonna break it down and see which teams have added players that may help your fantasy football team this season. We're gonna start out in the AFC East, and let's talk about the Bills. So today, let's go over the Bills here. We're going to go over quarterback Kyle Allen. Really not a big deal. There's Josh Allen starting quarterback, not really anything individual. I did want to go over the wide receiver attorney Deonte Harty. He's coming over from the Saints. He's an electrifying type of guy. He's great on kick and returns, and if your league does offer anything for punt or kick returns, could be really good. He's also a fast, good wide receiver. They did lose people like Cole Beasley and such, so he could fit up into the slot, get you a couple good boom games, maybe even a best ball type of player, maybe somebody you could grab in your dynasty league. Maybe if there are some injuries, God forbid, to maybe either Gabe Davis or something, you could see Deonte Harty step in and be a viable option for you. He is a really good deep threat. It says he expected to sign a 2-year deal worth up to $13.5 million. I think that's really good, decent money for what he can bring to the team. He's giving you special teams. He can also give you some work here. Did sign a little guard. We're not worried about anything defense, and that should be the Bills. Let's go ahead and scroll down here and talk about the Miami Dolphins. Quarterback Mike White, he was over there with the Jets, came over as a backup now for the Dolphins. You never know, depending on Tua's health, we could be looking at Mike White of being the guy, somebody you possibly could stash on your bench. You never know, God forbid something happened to Tua, then Mike White, boom, he is now going to be probably the starter there. We did sign back both of their running backs, Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson, so they're not going to be having any kind of, awesome, amazing running back. I was hoping they were going to get somebody hopefully in the draft, or somebody a big boom type of play in free agency. That didn't happen. Possibility of still somebody getting in the draft. Mostert and Wilson, they're both 49ers guys. Head coach was a 49er guy, so they're probably a little bit of love in there. Both of them signing a 2-year deal, but neither one of them I would really want to target in fantasy football. If you did want to have somebody late in the draft, it'd probably be Raheem Mostert, but that's about it. Wide receiver Braxton Berrios signing a 1-year deal with the Dolphins. Again, pretty irrelevant. He had a couple good splash games with the Jets, but he's not really going to be doing much for me. Eric Saubert, a 1-year deal at the tight end spot. Could possibly be the starter there. I know they're letting Mike Gesicki go. We'll see how that goes. Even if he is the starter, I wouldn't probably be targeting him into any of my drafts. And then they got a bunch of defensive players. I know they did get Jalen Ramsey as well, so if you have defenses, Miami could be a decent defense for you to land in your drafts. Let's go on to the next team. We're going to talk about the New England Patriots. They did sign running back James Robinson. They do have Ramondre Stevenson there. He's going to be the starter. James Robinson, more of a backup type of guy, signed a 2-year deal with the Patriots. Nobody that you should be targeting in your fantasy roster. Stevenson is the man. They let Damian Harris go. Definitely Ramondre Stevenson or bust pretty much. Wide receiver Juju Smith-Schuster signed a 3-year deal with these guys. He will be the number 1. They did lose Jacoby Myers in free agency. It's going to be Juju Smith-Schuster show right now here for Mac Jones, and we'll kind of see how that goes. I'm not really excited about it. Somebody you can get probably in the mid to late rounds of Juju, and he is going to be a number 1 wide receiver. I did like they added quite a few offensive lineman pieces, especially for me. I like the Riley Reef signing. I think he's a pretty good offensive tackle. Signed a 1-year deal, $5 million. A couple linebackers, corners, and Jabril Peppers. That's funny. Jabril Peppers already he was really good and touted coming out of college, and he just never panned out. He's too small for a safety for my liking. Yeah, he does make a couple plays here or there, but he's nothing special. But overall, for fantasy football, there's not much here. I do like the running game, but not necessarily James Robinson. I do like Ramondre Stevenson. And then Juju Smith-Schuster, maybe somebody you could target later on down the line. Let's go and go to the next team, talk about the New York Jets. New York Jets did sign Allen Lazard, and I think the only reason they signed Allen Lazard was because they're trying to lure Aaron Rodgers there, and Aaron Rodgers really likes Allen Lazard. Rodgers says, I want Randall Cobb on the team. He says, I want Allen Lazard on the team, and I want Odell Beckham on the team. That's the 3 people. Well, they did land one of them, Allen Lazard, getting a 4-year, $44 million contract. Lazard's somebody I wouldn't be targeting very well. I don't think he's somebody, as right now, probably the 3rd string right here. I mean, you got the rookie Garrett Wilson. He is the number 1 target, the bona fide guy. You never know, if they add Odell Beckham, he might even be the 2nd guy. They've got some guys that Allen Lazard, there's too many too many people here to even call somebody that hey, I want to target this guy in my fantasy football league. Overall, nothing much for the Jets. I do expect them to get Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is expecting to be on the Jets. I think they're just trying to work out some financial things until he is going to be a Jet. So let's go to AFC North here. First off, talking about the Baltimore Ravens. Not really much to go in here. They did re-sign Justice Hill. That's kind of how I feel about that. Lamar Jackson. I do believe Lamar Jackson will be back with the Ravens. I just don't think any team's going to want to touch the guaranteed money that he is wanting. So either Lamar Jackson's going to be back with the Ravens or he's going to hold out the entire season. I would stay away from Lamar Jackson like there ain't no tomorrow. There's a good chance you may not have him for your league this year, and if you're in a redraft league, it's just not worth it. Let's go over to the Cincinnati Bengals. They did get Orlando Brown, a good offensive tackle there. But you know, it is what it is. I think he's going to take over for, I think Riley Reef was there, but nothing much really on the Bengals foot. I'm kind of waiting to see what they're going to do at Joe Mixon. They're not really sure if he's going to be on the team. I do expect him to be there, but Samaje Perine's not there anymore, and Joe Mixon could be out of the door as well. So we're going to have to play and watch and see what the Bengals do in free agency. As of right now, there's nothing really in free agency to talk about. So let's go over to the Cleveland Browns. We're probably going to have a Deshaun Watson full season. We'll see how that pans out. They got him another center. You know, he re-signed the deal 3 weeks, or he kind of reworked his deal. So $18 million deal. We'll see how that goes. Not anything really to write home about as far as fantasy football goes with the Cleveland Browns. Let's go ahead and move over here to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And again, this is another one of those cases. They got some good defensive pieces. They got a 2-year deal with Nate Herbig, and that's pretty much it. Nothing really to write home about as of right now with the Steelers, but we kind of see how they go. They got a lot of their pieces on offense already. We're just kind of waiting to see if anything develops in the offseason for them. We're moving on to the Houston Texans, and they do have a lot of stuff to talk about. Quarterback Case Keenum, he's going to be probably the backup as of right now to Davis Mills, but I do expect them to get something in the offseason for their quarterback. I think they're going to draft somebody really young. They may end up going with Davis Mills for another year, but we'll see how that goes. Wide receiver Noah Brown, yeah, he did really good for the Cowboys, but nothing to write home about. It is what it is. Robert Woods, he's okay. I mean, I think the Houston Texans are going to take one of the quarterbacks early on. They're going to probably get the Alabama quarterback. They're probably going to get I don't know who else they would be. I mean, I think Stroud's going number 1. And I think the Alabama quarterback's going to go number 2. That's kind of how my board goes. If Stroud doesn't go number 1, Stroud's going to be on the Houston Texans. They're going to get one of the top 2 quarterbacks. One of them will be there. Robert Woods, even Brandon Cooks. I think he's going to be gone. So I don't think he's going to be there in the Texans. So Robert Woods will be the number 1 wide receiver there. We'll see how it goes. I just don't think it's going to be a very good offense. Tight end Andrew Beck, I don't really like that. I think they have some good, like Jordan Brevin. He's going to be a really good tight end, I believe. For this season, I think he's a sleeper tight end that we can get, but that's pretty much it for the Texans as of right now. Let's move over to the Indianapolis Colts. Ashton Dulin, he's re-signing there. Okay, I mean, he's a good receiver, but he doesn't get the opportunity to really play. There's people ahead of him right now. He just doesn't get the targets that he needs. A lot of things other than that is a bunch of defensive players, as we can see here. Let's move on to the Jacksonville Jaguars. They signed quarterback CJ Beathard again. Pretty much irrelevant. Trevor Lawrence is going to be the man there. They did receive a non-exclusive franchise tag for their tight end Evan Ingram. That was a really good signing. He did really good in Jacksonville last year, and I know Trevor Lawrence is happy to have him. And then a couple defensive signings right there. Even though it's not an addition on here, it's pretty much going to be an addition to get the wide receiver Calvin Ridley from the Atlanta Falcons. I think it's going to be an amazing for this offense, and that's going to be really key for them to move forward. Let's go ahead and move over to the Tennessee Titans. As of right now, they have Derrick Henry on their team. I'm not sure what's going to happen with that. They signed a couple offensive linemen, some defensive pieces right now. They still have Tannehill. They still have the rookie Treylon Burks. They still have Derrick Henry as of right now, but we'll see how this goes as the free agency keeps the playing on and we go into the draft. We'll see if the Titans change at all. Let's move over to the AFC West. Talk about the Denver Broncos. One of the biggest things is Sean Payton coming to town. Going to be changing a lot of things. They did sign Jarrett Stidham there as quarterback. Going to be backing up Russell Wilson. They actually landed Samaje Perine as well from the Bengals. He possibly could be getting some work. We'll see how that goes. I know that Javonte Williams may not be there to start the season, and that would be a Samaje Perine show, which I think is pretty good value. The fullback, we're not really worried about fullbacks. Tight end Chris Manhertz and Greg Dulcich is there. Okwuegbunam was there. I don't think Manhurts is going to be anything to really write home about. Maybe just a depth piece there, and a couple offensive linemen, and a couple defensive players as well. Denver Broncos, somebody I'm definitely looking at on the offseason, see if I can get some late round sleepers out of them. But we'll kind of see how everything starts to shape up. Let's move over to our Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. They got Jawan Taylor. I think is a really, really good offensive tackle for Patrick Mahomes. I think it's going to work really good. And they have a couple defensive pieces that they signed as well. I know that, and they also lost Juju Smith-Schuster, so they'll probably be looking to vamp up something. Sky Moore should be able to step up a little bit, and I think they're probably going to draft another receiver too, but we'll see. The Las Vegas Raiders, somebody that's completely just destroying their team right now, especially since they just got rid of Darren Waller at tight end. They went over to the Giants, so they lost Derek Carr as well. They got Jimmy Garoppolo. He's going to be the starting quarterback. I think he's a good value play, maybe a plug-and-play type of guy for bye weeks. Amir Abdul, I think he's a really good running back as well. He can go in there and help Josh Jacobs, who did receive the franchise tag. So I think Josh Jacobs kind of fed up with it, though. I think Jacobs he signed the franchise tag, but I don't think he's going to sign a long-term deal. I think he's going to play this year for the Raiders, and he's going to be gone after that. So a new number one wide receiver going to be Jacoby Myers there. He signed a deal with them. It should be their main go-to guy. It was a number one wide receiver, but he could be a main go-to guy on the opposite side of Davante Adams this year. So he's going to be ended up turning from a number one guy for the Patriots. He's going to be now the number two guy for Jimmy Garoppolo. So Jimmy's going to have probably Jimmy, Josh Jacobs, Davante Adams, Jacoby Meyer. They also signed some Philip Dorsett. He's going to be a decent receiver in the slot. So they've got some pieces there. I just think they're kind of destroying their team when they got rid of Darren Waller. I think he was a great piece, and they shouldn't have got rid of him. But other than that, they got an offensive lineman, a couple defensive pieces here. Nothing else to talk about. But the Raiders is completely revamped, so we'll have to see how they play out. Let's go over to the Los Angeles Chargers now. Quarterback Easton Stick. Obviously, you know that's not going to be a big thing with Justin Herbert there. Got another offensive tackle there. He's re-signing Pipkins. And then a couple defensive pieces. Nothing really to shake a stick at, but it is what it is. They haven't done much to kind of light up anything for the Chargers fan base, but we'll see as free agency continues, see if they do anything crazy. Let's see, the NFC East, let's go over the Dallas Cowboys. They did release Ezekiel Elliott, and they did put a franchise tag on Tony Pollard. Pollard will be the number one running back for the Cowboys, and he won't have Ezekiel Elliott leeching any of his runs, so it should be pretty good. They did get Stephon Gilmore. I think was a great piece. They have really good bookend corners there now, and they re-signed Van Der Esch, so that's a really good thing for the Cowboys. Let's move over to the Giants. I think they're doing an amazing job so far. They just need to get some receiver help. They did re-sign Daniel Jones, a 4-year, $160 million deal. They got the franchise tag set for Saquon Barkley right here. They did re-sign Matt Breida to back up Saquon Barkley. I think that's a good play right there. They got Paris Campbell as one of their wide receivers, and they re-signed Sterling Shepard. Don't get me wrong, Sterling Shepard is a really good fantasy football wide receiver, and he's a good real-life football player, but he just hurt all the time. He's getting a little older, but they did re-sign him to a 1-year deal, just a $1.3 million deal. So he could just be kind of a depth piece there. They need a true number one wide receiver right there. And I know there was rumors that even Odell Beckham possibly even wanting to be there as well. So we'll see how that goes. They did trade for Darren Waller. I think this is a big piece for them. I think when they lost Evan Ingram and they saw how good he did, they're like, look, we need to get us another tight end that can do this kind of thing. They got Darren Waller, fantastic tight end. Good weapon for Daniel Jones. I think Darren Waller's going to have a good fantasy season. Then they got some more defensive pieces that we could talk about here later in another video. But as of right now, we're looking at the offensive pieces for fantasy football, and that is the Giants. Let's look at the Philadelphia Eagles, who also went to the Super Bowl. They signed Rashad Penny. He agreed to a 1-year deal. If he could just stay healthy, he'd be decent. They did lose Miles Sanders in free agency, but they re-signed Boston Scott. Jason Kelce came back for another year, the center. That's really good for them. Other than that, they got some good, solid defensive pieces that they ended up re-signing for their defense. Let's move on to the Washington Commanders. Jacoby Brissett signed a 1-year deal with these guys. They don't really know what's going on. They got rid of Carson Wentz and everybody else they had in their grandma playing quarterback. So Jacoby Brissett, I think right now is slotted in as the starting quarterback, but I'm pretty sure something's going to happen to where they get another quarterback in the building. It's going to be something in either free agency. They're going to maybe get something else, or in the draft they'll probably pick up one of these quarterbacks. Got some good offensive line pieces and then a bunch of defensive pieces for the Washington Commanders. Nothing really to write home about as of yet, but we'll keep an eye on them. Let's move over to the NFC North and the Chicago Bears. They signed PJ Walker as a backup to Justin Fields. He's going to be relevant for fantasy football. Another running back, Travis Homer. I think he's going to be irrelevant for football. I know they lost Montgomery, but, you know, I think Khalil Herbert will be the number one running back there. I think he's going to do a good job. Travis Homer may come in and spell him from time to time, but nothing somebody you want to target in fantasy football. Fullbacks we don't target in fantasy football. They did make a trade. They moved down for the number one spot, and they did acquire DJ Moore finally. Justin Fields has a number one wide receiver with Chase Claypool and Darnell Mooney, but as I tell everybody all the time, if you average only 150 yards passing and less a game, it doesn't matter who your receivers are. You got to do better, Justin Fields. You got to do better. I'm not getting excited. I'm not touching any of the receivers for the Chicago Bears because I don't have any faith in Justin Fields to provide fantasy value to any of these wide receivers. Nate Davis, I do like him. I do like him as a guard. I think that was a good play, and then a bunch of defensive pieces here as well. Detroit Lions lost their running backs there. I think Swift won't. I don't think Swift's going to be there for the Lions. So David Montgomery signed a 3-year, $18 million deal. I think he will be the starting running back for the Detroit Lions. Craig Reynolds, running back, he re-signed there, kind of irrelevant for fantasy football. And then they do have some fantasy defense pieces that we can get into in a later video. Let's move over here to the Green Bay Packers. I know they lost Alan Lazard, and they're going to be losing Aaron Rodgers as well. Nothing really to write home about as of right now. I mean, they got a kick and punt returner, and they got a long snapper. That's pretty much what their offseason is, and that's why Aaron Rodgers wants to out of there. Let's move over to the Vikings. They got quarterback Nick Mullins, irrelevant behind Kirk Cousins. They did have Alexander Madison come back on a 2-year deal. I thought for sure Alexander Madison was going to be on a different team, but he didn't. Tight end Josh Oliver, he's going to be irrelevant. They got a center. Other than that, they didn't do anything else either. You know, they lost some pieces. You know, so I just want to see, you know, Adam Thielen's not there anymore. I think KJ Osborne will slot out to be the other wide receiver there, but we'll move on to the NFC South. Talking about the Atlanta Falcons, they did sign Taylor Heineke to a 2-year deal. As of right now, he's the backup quarterback to Desmond Ridder, but I think Heineke is definitely a better quarterback than Ridder. But I want to see, do they want to lose to get a better draft position next year and a loaded draft next season, or do they want Taylor Heineke in there and try to win some games? I think they're going to put Ridder in there and then get rid of his behind. Fullbacks irrelevant. Tight end Jonnu Smith, he acquired and traded in New England. Jonnu Smith is more of a pass blocking, run blocking type of tight end more than per se a pass catcher. But if they're going to put Kyle Pitts more in the slot or on the outside, I think they're going to need another tight end. So they got Jonnu Smith. So I don't think fantasy football wise he's worth getting. I think he's just leave him alone. They did get some offensive line pieces, and then they have some defensive pieces here. So well, the offensive line pieces, they're coming back to the team. But Carolina Panthers, they did sign quarterback Andy Dalton right now. That won't stand. He's the starting quarterback. He may even be the starting quarterback first couple weeks to let the rookie come in, because they're going to get a rookie quarterback, in my opinion. And then they'll sit Danny Dalton and let the quarterback go, because they're not going to be very good. They did sign running back Miles Sanders, and they signed tight end Hayden Hurst. A good tight end finally, and a good running back finally. They just need to get that quarterback piece, and now they need some receivers. I think Terrace Marshall Jr. is their starting wide receiver, so we'll see how that goes. And then we'll just move on from there, because they don't have much else. Shy Tuttle they got from the Saints. He's a decent defensive lineman as well, and Von Bell. So let's go over to the New Orleans Saints. They did a couple things in the offseason that should be getting people excited. Down in New Orleans, they did sign Derek Carr, so they got themselves a quarterback. By all means, he's not an amazing quarterback, but he's a good quarterback. I think he's a top 12 quarterback in the league right now, so I think they can do some things for fantasy football for your fantasy team. Jameis Winston signed up to be the backup quarterback, which I really like for him. They did sign Jamal Williams at running back. I think he may be the number one running back there. I think Alvin Kamara will be serving a suspension this season based on what he did in Las Vegas with punching that guy. Wide receiver Michael Thomas re-signed with the Saints on a 1-year kind of one of those, let me see how I do, let me see what I can do for your team type of deals, where, you know, the better he does, on the field, the more money he can make, and possibly a long-term extension for Michael Thomas could come. Tight end Juwan Johnson is probably the starting tight end for this team. He showed some flashes and could be very good for this team as well. And then some defensive pieces. They needed some D-line help, and that's exactly what they got. Let's move on to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Right now, we all know Tom Brady is retired, so they got Baker Mayfield as their starting quarterback. Could be a lot worse. I think he's going to do well, especially with the weapons they have there. And they got Chase Edmonds signing a one-year deal. He'll probably be backing up Rachaad White. Moving on to the NFC West, let's go over the Arizona Cardinals. They signed running back Corey Clement, and they got some offensive pieces. They need a lot of help. Kyler Murray's not going to be there to start the season. I think Hopkins is going to be gone. I don't know what to really think about this. I think the entire Arizona offense is a stay away from me this season for sure. Let's move over to the Los Angeles Rams, and they got tight end Hunter Long there in a trade with the Dolphins. Again, nothing really to write home about, and they got a guard. So nothing really to show for free agency for the Rams as of right now, but we'll keep going on here. Let's go with the San Francisco 49ers. They got quarterback Sam Darnold. He agreed to a one-year deal. It's pretty much a backup deal. I'm not really sure why they signed this guy. Maybe they just don't think Brock Purdy's going to be ready and Trey Lance isn't ready. I don't know, but they got Brock Purdy and Trey Lance. Why do you need to go get Sam Darnold? Who knows? Maybe they just wanted to have somebody that could definitely throw the ball. Who knows? And they got re-signed their center, and they got some defensive pieces as well. Let's go ahead and move on to the last team we're going to talk about. They re-signed Geno Smith. I think was really good for their team, for the Seattle Seahawks. He did really well. And then a couple defensive pieces that we could talk about. But overall, I think that is going to do it for today's video. I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me. I'm not sure how long this video is going. I think it's a little over 20 minutes. So I'm gonna let you guys go. We kind of went over all the free agency as of right now and who's signing, who's doing what. I wanted to kind of cover every team for you guys and what my quick thoughts were for them for fantasy football. But we're gonna be releasing a lot of good fantasy football videos out there, man, getting you guys prepared for your fantasy football leagues and to ultimately win a championship for your league. So with all to do, man, just leave me down some comments down there, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. You guys have been helping out strong. We're almost at 500 subscribers. Thank you guys so much. I can't wait to see you guys on the next video. We'll see you guys next time.